And we finally have got into the last day of the week. Last working day of the week. Thank you very much for being with us all through the week on Breakfast Central. Welcome to a Friday morning here on New Central TV. We hope that you enjoy the next 2 hours with us. I am Osarogie Ogbawa.
And I'm Joe Hansen. Yesterday, we did see a video of the Super Eagles of Nigeria holding a 1-minute silence for all those who had died in the course of watching that very, very breathtaking match between the Super Eagles of Nigeria and the Bafana of South Africa. It was sad. We first of all thought it was one. We had a breaking news here yesterday. Yeah. But then again, we found out that it's numbering up to 5, which is quite shocking. But then again, it's a sad situation. But like they say, we hope and continue to pray that the families of those who have lost their loved ones shall and will be comforted.
But it's also a really tragic way to go. Because I mean, you're enjoying one of the most exciting moments, as a Nigerian, and then your health fails you. No family plans to hear that kind of story, that daddy passed on because of a football game or while watching football. Nobody plans for that kind of thing. It's I don't even know how anybody who's going to take that. There's that part, and then my dad also called me yesterday after the show, and we spoke about it, and he said it's one of the reasons that he doesn't watch, Super Eagles or any, football game where he has some interest, where he, loves any of the teams. He doesn't watch it, mostly because of those, health challenges. So it's painful, and of course, condolences to their families. I believe that it's also an opportunity, or it's a reminder that everyone needs to do regular health screenings.
Oh yeah.
We need to make sure that, your organs, as you get older, those health screenings are very, very important, because if some of these people maybe had a clue that they were, in somehow, somewhere hypertensive, maybe some of these things would have been prevented. But once again, condolences to their families, and we wish them strength at this time. We also have Adebola Adedu who are joining us. She's going to be bringing us breakfast headlines. Good morning, Adebola.
Good morning, Osarogie and Joe. How are you doing this Friday morning?
Well, we're doing great. We're doing fine. And I can also say, maybe let me toe the line Osarogie just brought out. How often do you exercise? Because for many Nigerians, they feel as long as you can trek, when you suffer in traffic and, the hustle of the mind is enough exercise. What do you think about exercising and, of course, our current lifestyle? Okay.
Before I come to your question of how often do I exercise, my deepest condolences as well to those who lost their loved ones watching the match 2 days ago. That was a very dramatic climax to the finals, finals for Nigeria. I exercise. I used to skate, but it's been a long while. But I take long walks, from time, to time. I think there should be some sort of doctor's warning for those who have certain underlying health issues, like if you're hypertensive, if you're easily agitated. I feel for matches like Nigeria playing, please just stay off it. I had my heart in my mouth while Nigeria was playing Bafana of South Africa. So I think there should be a sort of doctor's prescription or warning. If you're easily agitated, you get palpitations easily, or you're hypertensive, please just stay away watching Nigeria playing in the match. Then just go for the scores afterwards, just to be on the safe side. But yeah, I take long walks. I'd like to skate, but it's been a long while. But I think I take long walks as my own form of exercise.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one. I mean, just recently, I had to renew my membership at the gym. I mean, and I know Osarogie always does is running, even though people are asking, this running, has it reduced, has it given the 6
people just
packs?
mind their damn business.
You know, have a 6
mind
packs
for once?
running.
Mind your damn business. Leave my, stomach.
Joe, how about you, Joe? How often do you exercise?
Well, I can tell you this categorically. I mean, I'm an athlete by nature, but
really?
I've not. Yeah, I mean, I used to play basketball regularly, but then again, I do have a image of me. I don't know if the camera can zoom, but I mean, that's me. That's me at the gym. You can see that. I just that's me at the gym.
It's regular culture, for a lot of people in Lagos, to. I say a lot of people go to the gym just because, it's a new fun thing to do, So we go there, make a ton of videos. You go there, 4 times in the whole month, and then you disappear for 6 months, and then you come back again, at the 7th or 8th month, make not a ton of videos of yourself at the gym. I don't think anybody who's, and this is me being judgmental, I don't think anybody who's serious about being in the gym has the time to actually make videos. Every single person that I see on Snapchat with those videos, of their backside mostly at the gym, really isn't, there.
Which of the genders are you talking about here?
Well, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, that's just on a lighter note. It's important to exercise, and that's what we must point out here.
Very true.
It's also important
Absolutely.
to have regular health checks. 2 weeks ago, I went to the hospital, to do like a proper health screening, and I hadn't done like ECG and heart checks before, but I did it this time. Did X-rays on my chest, my lungs, everything. These things are important as you get older. And I think if we can also place your parents on some health insurance policy so that they can also have regular visits to the hospitals, as they get older. It's not too much to ask. Put them on some health plan. There's a lot of these ones that are available. But anyway, aside these light conversations, let's share with our viewers this morning what our top stories are.
This morning on our top stories, NLC-TUC threatens strike, give federal government ultimatum. Nigerians are saying, not again.
And Niger State Governor bans mass food purchase from his state. Some people are seeing this as dictatorial almost.
Group calls for rejection of firearms bearing bill. You do recall the firearms bearing bill? Well.
And also, we're saying this morning that Nigerians seek a hands-on president.
We'll find out what that is about. And most importantly, the front pages of the newspapers where you can be part of it by calling in. All of this and much more only in Breakfast Central.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines here on News Central TV. I am Adebola Adeduba. The news begins in West Africa, where the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress have issued a 14-day nationwide strike notice to the federal government. The union said that the 16-point agreement was reached on October 2, 2023 between them and the federal government has not been implemented. Chairman, Chief Executive Officer of Nigeria Anti-Drug Agency, Brigadier General Mohammed Marwa, has tasked zonal commanders, state commanders, and area commanders of the agency to go all out and smoke out drug barons still in hiding and dismantle their cartel. The NDLEA boss gave the charge in his meeting with directors and all commanding officers of the agency at its national headquarters in Abuja. He said no efforts must be spared to remove illicit drug equation from security challenges facing the country. Let's also tell you that ECOWAS Commission President Umaru Aliyu Tuare says the West African bloc is being challenged more than ever before. He stated this in Abuja, Nigeria's capital city, where foreign ministers from the region have come to emergency talks to hammer out a response to a major political crisis in Senegal and the announcement by 3 cool-hit countries of their pullouts from the bloc. We head to Senegal, where a collective of Senegalese civil society groups on Thursday called for mass mobilization against the delay to this month's presidential poll, outlining a series of planned actions, including the protest and strike. The normally stable West African nation has plunged into its worst political upheaval in decades after lawmakers backed President Macky Sall's decision to postpone the February 25 election, now scheduled for mid-December. In South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa says the end to crippling power cuts is within reach. Ramaphosa, who stated these while delivering the State of the Nation address ahead of elections this year, also pledged to boost renewable energy production and create thousands of jobs in the green economy. We head now to East Africa, where Ethiopian lawmakers on Thursday approved the appointment of Intelligence Chief Temesgen Turen as Deputy to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in a shake-up that has followed the ouster of the long-serving Demeke Mekonnen. MPs also endorsed Taye Atske-Selassie, Ethiopia's former ambassador to the United Nations and currently diplomatic advisor to Abiy, as foreign minister. Up north, the European Union says it intends to support development in Mauritania through an increase in investment in the country, but also through energy cooperation without forgetting the management of migrants. These emerged on Thursday from the visit to Nouakchott of the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and the President of the Spanish government, Pedro Sanchez. And that's a wrap on Breakfast Headlines. It's back to Osarogie and Joe.
Thank you so much, Adebola. I think one of the biggest concerns for Nigerians is the fact that the NLC and the TUC are embarking or about to embark on another strike. 14 days ultimatum. Well, many Nigerians are not really paying attention to that, and I can tell you that for free. Having spoken to a few and having listened very closely and seen what Nigerians are saying on the social media space, they're like, not again, because it's the same ultimatum that was given. So far, so good since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu got into office. We've seen ultimatums given. We've seen impromptu strikes, and then nothing has changed. So Nigerians are asking, what is the difference with this one?
Well,
no, I think your first statement, that Nigerians are bothered, I don't even agree with that. I don't think anybody's bothered, with the NLC or the TUC's call for strikes. I don't think anybody's bothered with the ultimatums. Nigerian people aren't. The Nigerian government isn't. And the reason is, for the last long while, the NLC has continued to, in Nigerian terms, make mouth. That they're going to go on strike, and we're giving you an ultimatum, a 2-week ultimatum, 1-week ultimatum. And just like clockwork, they call off the strike a day before or 2 days into it. And that's why you've noticed that lately, when they call for a peaceful protest or anything, nobody comes out. Because Nigerian people see that they have failed them, in the last long while. There's too many reasons why they should have gone on strike.
Talking about why Nigerians are bothered. The prices of goods and services are skyrocketed. I used to purchase eggs. I get 2. Before now, I purchased them for 250. Now it's going for 300 naira. Your little pasta. Your little, I don't want to do any free adverts. Your little pasta goes for 150 before. Now goes for 200. Nigerians are groaning with the hike in prices of foodstuff. Things are not just the way they should be or the way they used to be. I really do not know what the impact of this strike, would make. I saw on the news that the federal government ordered the Minister of Agriculture to roll out about 42,000 tons of wheat, of rice, of gari. Well, will they be going for the same price or it will be of a lesser price? Well, time will tell. What will be the impact of this strike? Well, time again will tell. But one thing is for sure, Nigerians are really crying and they are groaning with regards to the hike in prices of goods and services. That is for sure. Yeah,
and I agree with you. We've spoken about this, countless times. Times are really hard for the average Nigerian. Oh, yeah. There's like nobody that isn't dealing with it. I personally told myself a few days ago that I was going to stop this thing where I give 2,000 here, 1,000 here, because there's too many people that are seeking help. I said I was going to stop because I'm tired myself. I'm getting drained myself. But the point here is, as much as there is a lot of suffering and a lot of hunger, Nigerian people do not believe in what the NLC is doing. And so when they're calling for a strike or calling for a protest, the people that they are meant to be protesting for do not trust them or believe in whatever it is that they're doing. So, and I'm sure that many people have seen this as just another one of those, threatening, strike in a couple of days, and then, like clockwork, they call it off, just before, and say that they have agreed with federal government, they've had a closed-door meeting, and, all is good and well. That's why nobody cared when Joe Ajero was beaten up. Well,
I think we've said it all. But one thing that also scares me the most in this entire situation are the middlemen. We did have a caller who called in from the north and told us that, listen, people are hoarding food. We also saw the stories yesterday, how food is being hoarded. And in the course of the breakfast show, I'm sure we're going to discuss on that, especially when we have Arawa, someone join us from there, one of the senior members there will join us. But then again, the middlemen are also a problem. When they go to the markets, they buy foodstuff and they bring it down to the locals or the community. Nobody says you shouldn't add, the money for transportation and all that, but don't spike it too high so much that the common man is not able to even buy from you. And that's why I wonder what's happening to price regulatory agencies and so on. Now, there's no cap. I saw a crate of egg. I mean, I talked about a crate of egg like 3 weeks ago. I did a video on social media and I said, listen, it's 200 naira for one. Guess what? Just yesterday, I went to the supermarket, passing by, trying to get a few things, and then I saw a crate of egg now 5,800, and I laughed. I'm like, really? I just saw it like 2 weeks ago for 4,000 plus. Now 5,800, very soon will be, I think a house will be frying one egg and everybody will share one egg.
Hopefully we don't get to that point.
Well, we can't say. Well, it's now 5,000. How many families can afford a crate of egg for 5,800?
Or get your own chicken.
Well, that one is there, but
anyway.
I hope they don't take it from you too.
All right.
Anyway, thank you so much for talking with us. I'll see you again at 9 a.m.
All right, good to be here.
All righty. So, more conversations, no doubt, and it's time for us to quickly go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring to you more top stories.
Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. Now, in the spirit of football banter and trolling, football fans are allowed to use almost everything. Sometimes very disrespectful, but most times with the understanding that amongst all lovers of the beautiful game, it's all just banter for the fun of it. The trolling and the rivalries are also part of the things that make the game even so beautiful. It's every football fan's hope that his team or country has very little that can be used against it by supporters of rival teams. Sadly, when his national teams play, Nigerians may not be so lucky. Aside the current state of our country, there's also tons and tons of videos from the election campaign that have been used by rival country supporters in trolling us during this, current AFCON. Now, one of the most recent weapons our enemies have gotten to use against us is this video of the artwork being presented to the Vice President at the receipt of the induction of new helicopters. We shared the video with you yesterday with the Vice President Kashim Shettima meeting with Nigerian Air Force officers, and of course a picture, a portrait of President Mohammed, President Bola Tinubu, I beg your pardon, was presented to him, and we had a really, really good laugh. Now, my thoughts are pretty clear on this. After all the laughter that erupted when that video went viral, seeing that, of course, it's a photoshopped image or painting of Mr. President in front of a helicopter, all dressed in fighter pilot gear, let's also remember that something must be stated. The induction took place sometime Tuesday afternoon with the Vice President there, while the President, of course, returned to the country on Tuesday night from France, where he went for a private visit. The issue here is this induction could have been done at any time. But seeing that they maybe didn't have any expectations that Mr. President will be available to take part, they went on with it, having the Vice President there. Now, this may not sound like a big deal, but it is. It tells a story about how Mr. President isn't expected to show up at such events, either because they are not big enough for him or because they just don't expect that he will show up. And this is because our president lately hasn't shown much interest in being around the nation, attending to national issues very much. In fact, I even argued yesterday that the next time we might see a video of the president is at the next Federal Executive Council meeting, not at different locations outside the comfort of the presidential villa, attending to various national concerns, speaking with Nigerians, speaking with the press, inspecting projects, showing empathy and encouragement to Nigerians where necessary, and many other reasons why he should be up and about. Now, nobody is asking or expecting that he will be on the presidential jet every day, moving across the 36 states. Nobody expects that he will divide himself into 10 places and show up every single time there's a security concern. And that's why, of course, there are governors and there's ministers who have been appointed to also show up where necessary. But for a nation in the current state that it is, not seeing the president at all means that he's really not hands-on. with a keen eye on the project that his government is meant to be delivering to the Nigerian people. For context, the last few times, Mr. President, that we remember, left Osarogie, were, of course, when he went to France. That was, of course, he returned on Tuesday from France. Before that, of course, the last time that we remember, was when, of course, the president went to Lagos State during the Muslim holidays. If you remember also, that also created some controversy because of his convoy. And then before that, in December 2023, he went to Borno State to visit the Shehu of Borno and commiserate with the victims of that Air Force, mistake bombing. After that, there's not very many Nigerians that can say, oh, Mr. President was here, or we've seen him, speaking to the press. We've seen him addressing, these concerns. We've seen him inspecting projects. There's none of it. I've said it a few times that former President Buhari set the standard of being president that was so poor that the next president must have known that it must be improved on. It almost felt like former President Buhari was on an 8-year holiday and only left Osarogie when there was a foreign trip to go for. And even getting to the foreign trips, there was still nothing. And now, so for President Bola Tinubu, are there any engineering projects that you need to see for yourself? Are there any construction projects you'd like to see and address journalists while you're there, where the, those engineering, those hazard hats that they wear? Are there any big hospitals being built that you would like to go and see for yourself? Are there any refineries being fixed? Are there any housing projects? Are there any foreign investment initiatives that you like to witness and be there and see for yourself that the promises that you made to Nigerians are being put, to work? Yes, we know that you've, appointed ministers. And again, this isn't disregarding the possibility that their ministers and governors hopefully carrying out their duties as directed by the president. It's more about Nigerians wanting to see the president and see a president that is actively involved in the job of fixing Nigeria, who isn't shy of speaking with journalists about his developmental plans and the progress of, level of these plans. Mr. President, the citizens who voted you into office, they want to see you being president. Good morning, Nigerians. Governor Mohammed Umar Bago of Niger State has given an executive order to stop food speculators from invading local markets to mop up farm produce to other states and neighboring countries. This announcement came hours after residents of Minna, Niger State, trooped out in large numbers to protest the hardship caused by the rising cost of living occasioned by the downturn of the economy. The governor of the state, of course, made this statement. Let's take a look.
Trucks who come to pack or buy foodstuffs from our villagers in bulk should be halted for now. We have stopped mass purchase from our local market in all our local government from now henceforth until further notice. Anybody found doing that, we have given security agencies go ahead to confiscate those trucks and share the food to the people. Thank you.
Well, Governor Bago disclosed that the protest was caused by reports that the state government was planning to hoard food palliatives despite the severe hunger people were facing. Now, he added that security operatives in the state intercepted a group of hoodlums who attempted to hijack trucks loaded with food items that were heading to Abuja for storage. Well, this morning on Breakfast Central, joining us further to discuss this is Mr. Abdulaziz Sulaiman. He is the Director, Publicity and Advocacy and the spokesperson, Northern Elders Forum. Good morning and thank you for being here.
Good morning, my brother.
All right. So what's your take on the statement made by the governor? You just saw the video as well. Are there any concerns, especially from the Elders Forum in the north?
You see, there appears to be some misinterpretation of the governor's statement, because I read some reports where it's said that he has stopped the movement of foodstuff from Niger and other states. I don't think he has mentioned anything like that in the statement, is from local governments to other places. You see, I was listening to your commentary before now. One of you mentioned the activities of hoarders. Now, these hoarders don't necessarily have to come from different states. They operate even within the state in question. I remember an instance when some people bought grains from the farms directly in trucks. They warehoused the grains in the same state, the same town in Gobi, only for them to sell the grains out again to the people at exorbitant prices after about 3 weeks. So you can see, I think the governor was referring to generally hoarders, not people from other states, because that will bring about some confusion. In any case, as elders of northern Nigeria, we believe, and rightly so, that every governor is the chief security officer of his state. So Bago might have been thinking along the security situation in Niger State. I think Niger State was the first to embark on protests over the hardships being experienced across Nigeria. Kano State followed yesterday, I think. So it's apt for the governor to take measures. You see, in crisis situations such as food crisis, that measure is quite welcome, because I remember I read something about the First World War, after the end of the First World War or Second World War, when Germans would stop a person carrying huge sums of money on a truck, not truck, I think wheelbarrow or something. They'll pour away the money and take the wheelbarrow because it's more valuable to them than the money. So you see, if people would go and purchase grains, mostly from the farms directly, go and hoard them, and then resell the same grains at exorbitant prices to the common man, I think the governor is right to take that step.
Yeah, okay, well, we're going to get back to talking about I mean, from what you've said, there's seems to be a misinterpretation of what the governor's statements were. So we'll get back to that. But, can you help, with paint a picture, basically, of what the current situation is like for people in those states? There's, of course, been a protest already in, I think, in Minna. Mostly people protesting hunger. These are parts of the country that, at least, from statistics, have, very, very, high levels of poverty. So can you share with us, what the situation is? Has the economic situation gotten way worse for these people? Are they no longer able to afford, 3 square meals every day, if they even had that before? And what's the reality for them?
You see, the picture here in the north is one of frustration and widespread anger. I want to stress on anger because people are really angry. People are hungry and naturally angry. People cannot afford, I think a lot of people here in northern Nigeria who have, like you said, been strangled by poverty, have grown worse. The situation has grown worse for them, so that they cannot afford, I think, even 1 meal a day. There are a lot of people who cannot afford 1 meal a day. And those who can afford 2 or 3 are not willing to assist. So the people are generally angry with government. People are generally angry with government, which is why, unless government takes proactive measures to hold these protests, that is how things start and they get out of hand. But because all the people you see on the streets during the protests are angry people, they are angry commoners, people who cannot feed themselves, who cannot feed their families. You see, what the most important thing to take care of the problems in the north is to ensure security. With security, the north can feed itself and feed other sections of the country. But when prices of inputs become prohibitive, farming and livestock rearing prohibited by damaging interests. I don't think, and you see, when your neighbor's house catches fire, it will also get to your own house. So I think it is a collective issue, this is a national issue which we should not look at with condescension or levity. We have to work collectively to keep out this emerging hunger in the land.
Yeah,
see, I think it's
the emerging hunger you're speaking of, I mean, I think both of us have agreed that it's not new. It's maybe just gotten worse. And so does the Northern Elders Forum blame governors of these regions for mismanagement of the resources of these states? Does it blame the governors for managing that level of poverty year after year? There have been governors of these regions that have been there for 8 years, and none of them can boast that they were able to lift the people out of poverty. They were able to, change the economic situation of those regions. So does the Northern Elders Forum, say shame on these people who held, the reins of their states for that long and did absolutely nothing?
The Northern Elders Forum has been persistently calling out these governors who have not performed. And we have all along placed the blame squarely on the doors of our leaders. We are convinced that the problems of the North, the challenges the North is facing, are a result of lack of leadership, lack of credible leadership. The North has lost credible leaders. What we have today are people who pose as leaders who are, however, ill-prepared and ill-equipped to lead the people. So you see, it's not this is not the first time we are blaming the northern governors, because they are now the leaders of the North, whether we like it or not. They hold immense resources, they control state powers, but really they are not doing much, and they don't appear to be ready to do much to get the North out of its current situation.
Okay, let me also ask very quickly, the Northern Forum, of course, the elders did sit together and also spoke to the president and said he should look at corruption, which has also played a major role in possibly making it hard for Nigerians to believe that the current administration is here to fight and also ensure that they provide the citizens with exactly what they need. And basically, what are the things that Nigerians truly need, aside from food, water, electricity, and the likes? Do you think that there's any way that the current administration and the president could actually deal on corruption, which we've seen spread across all facets of humanity in Nigeria? Does the forum agree that corruption can be stopped? Do you believe that as well?
Yeah, we do actually. And at the level of the forum, we have just issued a statement calling on the president to take real action to curb corruption in government and other places, ensure accountability and transparency in operations of government. We did that just, I think, last week. But unfortunately, the president was away, and we also lamented his constant trips out of the country in the time of crisis. You can see how even this dire security situation, where even the federal capital is threatened, but a high-power security meeting had to be headed by the chief of staff to the president, because he was not around. Now you see, we are sure, with the right quality of leadership, corruption can be stopped. But the problem is we have leaders all around who lack the political will. We will not say capacity. They have the capacity, but they lack the political will. The capacity in the sense that they can use government force to enforce anti-corruption laws, but they lack political will and personal integrity to make considerable impact on the fight against corruption. And unless we are able to curb corruption or arrest it and eliminate it totally, Nigeria will continue to remain backwards, and Nigerians will continue to suffer. Yep. You see, in March, let me start from 2015. In 2015, Nigerian voters trusted President Buhari to get the nation out of through and out of its limitations and to fight corruption. But he failed to do that for 8 years. I think he did not arrest or prosecute even as MIs, Iraqs, for corruption or stealing. In fact, it even grew worse during those 8 years of General Mohammed Buhari. Now, we again trusted Tinubu based on his promises and the values we shared, that he could turn around the nation. And unfortunately, even though we as elders don't want to quickly jump into conclusions, we feel it's really early to judge or assess a government that's barely 8 months old or 7 or 9.
You're saying, so let's get it right. You're saying that you think it's too early to rate the performance of the current administration in their fight against corruption.
Yeah, it's just about 9 or 8 months old. So, but from the way it's going, unless it retracts its steps, it's going the wrong way. And that, we keep telling the president that it's going the wrong way. People are suffering, malnutrition, hunger is everywhere. We keep telling him, unless he decides to behave like his predecessor, who will not listen.
Yeah, okay, well, so it's too early to rate the performance, but from where it's going, from what you see, we're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
And this is with regards to the fight against corruption, the economy, and any other plans that the government has put in place so far. Is this what you're saying?
Yes, well, we see what at least we have seen some positive signs when President Tinubu suspended a sitting minister that he appointed by himself and asked for investigation. So he has started something, but we hope he will continue. He will take these measures to their logical conclusions. You see, it's unlike his predecessor. His predecessor did not do anything. I think he arrested only one man, and it's not even about corruption, and released him later. But these people that the president asked to be investigated are still undergoing investigation, and we hope he will give the agencies the required competence to prosecute them properly.
Yeah, so I don't want to focus to be on corruption. I'm just trying to get a picture of how you see the current administration. If we had elections next month, from what you've seen so far, would you encourage members of the Northern Elders Forum, members, whoever it is that you maybe speak with, would you encourage them to once again vote this current government into office?
No, we wouldn't. Honestly, we wouldn't, because our people are angry. That is the reality. Our people are angry. There is no way at this point you can ask them to vote to vote this administration again. And what we are saying is, as elders, we would rather have him do the right thing, so that we have good years of progress, good 8 years of progress, and build on that. We don't want a situation where we stagnate after every 8 years, because we are not operating on a radical platform. We would love him to take advice from good, well-meaning Nigerians, from elders, so that he can succeed. But as it is now, like I said, the North is clearly angry, and no one can tell any Northerner to vote Tinubu. We know what we are hearing, and we know what we are seeing.
All right. I mean, that's a strong one coming from your end. But let's also look at this. I mean, recently, we also saw an allocation from the FAAC given to states as well. I would like to quickly glance through. That of Niger State amounted to 155.62 billion naira. If you take a look at the other states and adding all of them up together, it comes to about 6.57 trillion naira. So states did receive the allocation. But it seems like every time this allocation comes, there's barely any proof of infrastructure, barely any proof of the monies or the allocation being used for the betterment of the citizens. Now let's look at the north, of which has garnered this conversation, especially Niger State. This money has indeed arrived, let's use that word, but do you think the allocations given to states are used appropriately? Because it's easy for one to equally blame the president, but what about the governors? What about the state, local, the states itself? You go to the local government areas and so on. Do we see developments in these areas? I want to get your thought on that. Is your forum, whenever you meet and talk, do you also discuss with the governors, telling them what to do, especially when these funds have been allocated?
You see, I think you just heard what I said earlier, that we have never subscribed to the actions of the state governments, especially the northern state governments who we are familiar with. We have said that they are not competent to be in that position. They are ill-prepared to lead a people desperately in need of leadership. We have said that several times. I even repeated it here earlier. You see, what we are planning to do, or what we have been attempting to do, is to bring the governors together, the northern state governors together, even over security, which is a major concern. Let them come together, we discuss, we chat a way forward. But you see, like I said earlier, these people think they are gods because they control immense resources, they control powers, so they don't, they feel they can just go alone. And you see, our main problem is what we are trying to do now to bring about an end to this is to educate, to sensitize the commoner. The common man in northern Nigeria needs to be sensitized to know the extent of his powers to appoint and vote out any leader. Unless that is done, if they can get voted anyhow, no matter how bad they are, we are not going to get it right. So we are doing a two-pronged approach, trying to get them together, trying to speak to them, trying to get them to see reason, that is governors, and also trying to get the voter, trying to get the northern population to be aware of his rights.
Yeah, well, we hope Governor Umar Bago of Niger State will be able to clarify, the statements that he made, because like you've said, they've currently been misinterpreted. We hope that he's able to, speak with Nigerians again and let's know exactly, because, the people of Niger State, as much as, he's trying to protect them, they also need to make sales. And if these foodstuff, agricultural produce needs to be sold so that the people of Niger State and the farmers in Niger State can also feed, then, he can't stop it. So he needs to also clarify with us. Abdulaziz Suleiman, thank you very much for joining us. We will be speaking with you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right.
Absolutely.
Very interesting conversation there, I must say. Very, very interesting. Well, let's move on now. Still on Breakfast Central, the bill seeking to allow citizens in Nigeria to bear firearms as part of moves to encourage self-defense for citizens from bandits, also terrorists, and not forgetting to criminal elements is generating reactions across the country. Now, a group in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, has called on the Senate to reject the bill, which is currently awaiting first reading, saying the massive proliferation of small arms and light weapons in the country will compound current insecurity challenges. Take a look.
With unmasking words The bill, which was sponsored by Senator Ned Nwoko, representing Delta North Senatorial District, which have passed the first reading, is an invitation to anarchy. The non-state actors and some civilians have used illegal arms to wage war against the state of legalizing the use of weapons and captured in the general principles of the bill, as it will not be in the interest of the nation. Therefore, the civil society coalition for credible election is calling on the Senate President, Senator Gosul Ogbot Akpabio, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, and lawmakers of the upper and lower legislative chambers to reject the bill as soon as it is due for the debate.
Well, this is one of the major concerns from Nigerians, especially looking at the fact that there could be a proliferation of small firearms or firearms here and there once this reading is indeed passed by the House or the Senate. But then again, Nigerians are indifferent. Some have said if this happens, it will be of much benefit to the rich because they have money to pay for the licenses, to purchase weapons. And then there will be chaos before you see such a move indeed, simmer down, and of course, it's being taken care of.
Yeah, the reason, for these conversations and for these bills being put forward, first of all, is because of the killings that have happened in parts of the country, in Benue State, and then in other parts of northern Nigeria. Because of course, those people were murdered, and there are dozens. There's people then, and it's not the first time, over time, there's people that have started to say, okay, it might be better if they were able to defend themselves. If these people were armed, then maybe they were able to defend themselves from these bandits or these, terrorists who come and wipe out these villages. Yeah. So it started brewing, years ago, and then eventually got into a place where a bill has now, been put forward. To enable people to be able to once again defend themselves from these terrorists, of course, because the Nigerian government has failed to protect them. So there's that. The idea, of course, like the civil society group now has rejected it, and I'm sure they're not the only ones. And the reasons this will be rejected is, as much as Nigerians should be able to defend themselves from these terrorists, they should also be able to continue to call and demand of the federal government to protect Nigerians. But as much as they want them to defend themselves, Nigeria already has a problem with proliferation of arms. Nigeria has a major problem with the amount of arms, both sophisticated and light arms, that are just freely flowing across the country and find their way into Nigeria's, through Nigeria's borders. That's already a problem. Increasing those numbers from our current situation would not help anything. And the reason it wouldn't is, yes, it might give one or two people the ability to defend themselves from being murdered by bandits or by terrorists, in these villages in parts of the country. Yes, it might do that. It might even help also people protect themselves from kidnappers on the expressways or whatnot. Yes. But we currently do not have a good enough security architecture to checkmate the excessive use of those arms. We currently have situations where there's so many of these things and the government has not been able to checkmate them. If we have a situation where you now increase those numbers, 10 times over, 20 times over, and you have people simply getting licenses to walk around freely with weapons, our security architecture currently cannot checkmate it. And we would very likely see the murder rate in Nigeria skyrocket. I saw the IG of police make a statement about the numbers of deaths that we've seen lately. It was in hundreds. I can't quote it correctly. But those numbers will skyrocket in ways that the Nigerian government cannot control. And that's not a thing that I think anybody wants. There's too many simple murder cases that Nigerian police and Nigerian criminal justice system has not been able to checkmate. So imagine when you now have that happening 10 times over, where people have a fight after drinking some bottles of alcohol and they go bring out their weapons. I don't think anybody wants that. Until we have a system where we can fight crime and fight it effectively, we can checkmate the excessive use of force. Until we have a system where if you're caught breaking the law, the chances that you'll be arrested and you'll be found and you'll go to jail is high enough. We cannot just allow people get licenses to hold weapons. And that's, I believe is where these people are coming from, that we're not there yet. The demand must remain that the Nigerian government must protect the Nigerian people, because that's what they're in office for, and that's what they swore to do when getting elected into office. Not everybody, go buy your own gun and carry it.
I can only imagine what it would look like if everyone should have.
It would be total chaos. That would be total anarchy. It would be complete chaos. And I definitely do not want to see a Nigeria like that.
All right. Anyway, if you're just tuning in, this is Breakfast Central. Let's quickly bring you a recap of some of the top stories that we have discussed here this first hour. Niger State Governor bans mass food purchase. Reasons are given as a result of hoodlums who tried to ensure that they could, intercept.
And group calls for rejection of the firearms bearing bill. We just spoke about that.
Nigerians seek a hands-on president. Osarogie also broke that down, why that call is very necessary, especially at this time. Let's now bring to you what's coming up next for the second hour. We have NLC TUC threatened strike, give federal government ultimatum.
And we'll share with you programs to watch later today. Of course, Just Siri comes up at 10 a.m.
Don't forget to newspapers, the front page is what they say, where you can call in and also be a part of it.
All right, welcome back to Breakfast Central. Let's get straight into the newspapers now. And just to mention, the phone lines are going to be available. You can join the conversation, share with us your thoughts on any of the things that, of course, come up in the newspapers this morning. The phone lines, of course, are right on your screen. You could also tweet this morning at News Central TV and let us know your thoughts on these stories. We're going to be kicking off with our first newspaper now. I think it should be the Daily Trust here, I guess, right? It says there, provide food security to poor at grassroots. And of course, that is imams and bishops are saying to the federal government, provide food security to the poor at grassroots. I don't think they even need to be told. That should be, common knowledge. I don't think anybody needs to remind, the federal government. Sometimes, I just think that these calls are unnecessary. But also on the Daily Trust this morning, if you look at the top of your screen, court orders a psychiatric evaluation of suspected killer of ex-boyfriend. War on Gaza, 26,751 Palestinians killed in 118 days, says Envoy. Gombe ranks top in Socio-Economic Performance Index. And we can also find bottom of your screen on the Daily Trust. Okay, well, not many stories there. It shows a picture of traders at the Yanya market in Abuja yesterday as the price of goods continued to skyrocket. Writers to that story say a fresh protest in Kano. Labour issues strike ultimatum. Niger state government apologizes over arrest of protesting women. They have been released, and I saw that pictures were posted after they were released. Nigerians' resilience being tested, says the speaker. And of course, Tinubu orders release of grains, which is, very interesting. And like Joe had asked earlier, is the release of grains going to affect the prices of foodstuff? Are they going to, be able to buy rice and beans and maize and millet and whatnot at a much cheaper price? And how long are you going to keep releasing grains? How much are you going to release grains for, the rest of the year? Yes, I know that it will assist. It would help, to some extent, but, you're not going to continue releasing grains every 2 months. If not, at some point, we're going to run out. So there has to be some other thing that must be done. And that's where, the Minister of Agriculture, the government generally needs to be able to have, in their next Federal Executive Council meeting, should be the topmost priority at this point, because Nigerians are suffering. And there's more and more people who are thinking about protesting and crying out, to the Nigerian government, because they can't take it anymore. You've mentioned, repeatedly the prices of foodstuff right now, eggs and bread and rice and beans and oil and gas. There's nothing that is not at least 4 or 5 times or even more expensive than it used to be. People have, I said this before, have adjusted and adjusted and adjusted. And, it is almost a mental situation right now, the level of adjustment families need to go through just to be able to at least continue to have 3 meals a day is even getting too much, at least twice a day. So these are, the current realities, of the people across Nigeria. It's not just in the north. The only thing is that we're starting to see the protests start in the north. And of course, the NLC is calling for a strike. But it's a really, 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 really dire situation for many, many, many people. And I did mention earlier that I have gotten myself worn out because the number of people that you need to assist every day, they're getting too many, and I can't even cope anymore. So I've told myself it's best to, to stop. But there is hunger. Does anybody trust in the NLC's protest? I saw the responses to the NLC's message yesterday, and those who said, they don't care about the NLC's message, they're not waiting for the NLC to protest, that when Nigerians are genuinely tired, they will protest by themselves. Nobody, is relying on the NLC to speak on behalf of Nigerians, which of course, is a general idea that many, many people have across the country. There are states that had really, really high levels, of poverty before. I'm talking about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Imagine what the current reality is for those states, who, of course, were already dealing with poverty. So it's really, 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 really tough. But the attitude of the Nigerian government in response to this is maybe another thing that makes people want to protest, because they are not seeing a government that shows some level of empathy, that shows, to the Nigerian people that, yes, we understand what you're dealing with, and these are the steps that we're taking in order to fix it. We understand, what's important at this point. Do they really even understand? When I was taking the thing on which way Nigeria, that's what I was one of the things I was pointing at. That we need to see, and this is the Nigerian people need to see, not just the ministers now, but the president, the person who was voted into office before he then nominated these ministers. They need to see that he truly understands what's going on and also understands what must be done to solve it. If President Tinubu had spoken with journalists when he arrived from France, and he took questions from journalists and spoke with the Nigerian people and said, we know what's going on. We, have been having meetings. We have spoken to this person and that person and, these other people. We've set up, forget about setting up committees, but we've had these conversations, and these are the steps that we know must be taken in order to fix them. It might give the Nigerian people some level of confidence or some belief that, yes, there's somebody who's on ground, he's hands-on trying to deal with these situations. But we didn't get anything like that. The Nigerian people didn't get anything like that. That's why there would be people who are calling for a protest. Because does the president understand? Does the president know what must be done to fix it? These are questions that must be answered by the Nigerian president and, of course, the people who are currently in office. Because if they don't, then, of course, these calls for protests will continue. But these are, of course, the stories on the Daily Trust. We'll move to another newspaper. And, of course, remember, you could join us and share your thoughts with us on these stories. The Punch newspaper comes up next.
Let's go to the Punch now. And just to add to what Osarogie said, President Tinubu, addressed few Nigerians who gathered. That's where... All right, let's take a call first. We do have a caller from Imo State. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, Ibere. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, fine. I do watch your show every morning, and I like the fact that you people speak about the problems Nigeria are facing, the security, economic problems, the food, and everything happening. But it's just like the way we keep talking it every day, and yet we're not seeing any solution being made.
Yeah, well, and I get that, but it's, it wouldn't be better to stay quiet, will it?
Yeah, because a lot of Nigerians out there are suffering. I'm also suffering, to be sincere, because a lot of things, prices are hijacking. We can't even get things we used to get before the normal prices. It's either it's ×2, ×3, or even ×4. And most of us don't even have work. Most of us have, but we're not paid well. Then imagine the prices going up. How are we going to survive in Nigeria? Because at this point, it's going to be a rate where people are going to start dying out of hunger. Because just a few weeks ago, I watched your news where you talk about insecurity and kidnapping, and now we're talking about food problem, and yet our president keeps going on visiting, coming back, receiving handshake. It doesn't make sense. I think we need to shout out, let our voice be heard. The fact is that Nigerians are scared. Nobody wants to speak up anymore. Everybody just take what they see because it's Nigeria, and it doesn't make sense.
All right, Ebere, what do you think about the NLC and TUC strike? Don't you think that would also help in amplifying the voices of Nigerians?
The strike, just to be honest, the strike, ever since I've been in school, I've been hearing about strike, we're having strike, we're doing this. I don't know, I don't know if they're trying to, if it's in the favor of the citizens or the government, I just cannot tell, but the strike is none of our business anymore. Nigerians are crying, we need food, we need to eat. At least let them reduce the price. If they don't want to go on strike, at least let them go on strike for reasonable stuff. Like stuff like bringing down, going on strikes because of the food prices being hijacked and everything. Or prices of school fees being raised. Like, they just, I don't know. Nigeria is just a mess country.
Yeah. All right, Ebere, thanks very much for stopping by, and thanks for also watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll continue these conversations. It's necessary to keep the government on their toes, and ensure that they understand that the Nigerian people are watching their every move. That's the reason, and it's not better to stay silent. That doesn't, make it better.
Besides, it's currently happening, so it's what every Nigerian is going through at the moment. Well, let's go to the Punch, and you can also call in to be part of the conversation. Let's go to the Punch very quickly. Federal government, Labour defer on aborted peace deal. Be patient. Nigeria cannot afford strike this time. Minister begs Labour, seeks cooperation. Hunger, insecurity wrecking Nigeria. NLC, TUC lament. Say 14-day notice begins today. So I think I was right. Yeah, when you came out yesterday, we started counting from today. We said from today. Let's take Daniel. Daniel calling from Sulere. Good morning to you, Daniel. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, gentlemen.
All right, Daniel. What's your take on the front pages? You've seen insecurity. Well, basically, just hunger is actually taking the lead. What's your thought?
I don't think it has ever been this bad, going by the statistics. I don't think it has ever been this bad. In those days, you could go freely and travel, do what you want to do. But these days, the level of insecurity is so high, and you don't really get an equivalent response from the government. That is my problem. You don't get an equivalent or anything near equivalent response from the government. I was actually taken aback by the Which Way Nigeria news commentary you started with this morning. And I was really, really gladdened by the way you went about it. You were thorough. You just dived in. I said, it was almost unrestrained. And I was happy to feel a press, the press speaking this way, because the government needs to understand that a miracle is not by words, it's not by speech. It has to be by action. And we're not seeing the action. Everything is going hula baloo. And when you want to talk, the party faithfuls strangely still think it's politics, and they are up to defend. I once in a group said something. I said, in the last 40 years before the Buhari administration, the exchange rate was hardly up to 192, now 99 naira. Within Buhari's administration, it rose by 500 because there was a time it downslided and nothing was done about it. It got to almost 700. So in about 40-something years, it was 700. But in 7 months, we've recorded 800 naira increase. Now it's about 1,005. I was listening on a sister channel the other day, and I was shocked when they said that the official rate was actually higher than the parallel market rate. That was on Monday. And that was news to me because it has never happened. The government is just playing about. They seem to be clueless. We need to speak the truth. The government is clueless about everything happening around us. And Nigerians are left alone, struggling over everything you can imagine. Most of us are unemployed. It's not as if the certificate is not there. Am I speaking like an illiterate? But I'm at home. I'm unemployed. And there are thousands of us like that, willing to work. Then somebody will come out and say the youths are lazy. What an expression from the head of state. And now, like it's rightly said, the head of state is not even visible. It's not even visible. Things happen. 200 died in a community. He didn't show up. 20 died in Plateau. He didn't show up. About 5-6 days ago, about 9 died in Plateau. He didn't show up. Rather, it was in France. Is France our 37th state? We need to ask questions. Nigerians are not happy.
All right.
We are not happy. The era of politics is past. Now it is governance. Let's govern and let the people see the effect of government.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you for calling, Daniel.
And thanks for joining us. And yes, I agree with him. You know, politics, the time for politics is over. It's time for actual governance. You know, and if metrics aren't set by the president, if he hasn't set targets for the people he has put in, you know, as ministers, targets that he wants to see some level of progress in the next 1 year, then almost nothing will happen. You know, but I think a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about how it doesn't even look realistic expecting anything from government. And it's not because you shouldn't, but thinking about the fact that there's nothing different about the budget. There's not been any different way with which things have been done compared to the previous administration. You know, there's no increment in the budget for agriculture or for healthcare or for, you know, these things that, you know, you would maybe see that, okay, these are the things that would effect some level of change in the reality of Nigeria. There's no difference. The only thing that is different is the people that are handling those positions. And so it's hard to expect a change when from the structure there's no difference.
It's quite strong. Let's
go to Edo State. Odia joining us. Good morning, Odia.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes. I want to quickly speak on the issue of NSC, 14 days ultimatum that was given to the federal government. I want to say this is not the first time that NSC is giving ultimatum. Before you know what is happening, they will call off the strike. That is why federal government are not taking the labor unions very seriously. Now, in Nigeria we have today, you can no longer buy fuel to go to work. They promised 35,000 naira since 2nd or 3rd of October. Beginning from September, they have only paid 2 months out of the down 5 months that just passed. But the laborers are not saying anything about it. They promised CNG buses. They have not done any of those things. And the laborers are quiet. Now they are giving 14 days ultimatum. With the Nigerians, with the labor force, we don't believe in them. Before you know what is happening now, they will, the 13th night, they will call off this strike. We'll go back to square one. This is not the labor we voted for. This is not the level we need at this time, Nigeria at this time. So they are just doing what they are doing. We Nigerians are tired. There is no food from everywhere. So we don't know what to do. We don't know what to do.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you so much, Odia, for calling all the way from Edo State.
And you can tell that the mood is the same thing in every. We've gotten calls from the southeast,
north, from southeast,
from north, from Edo State now.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Everybody feels about the same way. And this is generally the mood of the nation, regardless of what political party that you support.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares about your
at this point,
ethnic leaning or language or whatever you speak.
I remember when I used to do radio then. You know, when we have these type of conversations, and then I get tons and tons and tons of calls of people complaining. And then I used to ask, like, is there anybody who's thinking otherwise? Like, is there anybody who's listening to us this morning that is thinking otherwise, that says, no, you people are getting it wrong? But nobody. There's absolutely nobody. It's the same thing everywhere. And so this is the mood of the nation, and nobody should gaslight Nigerians and let them know that, oh, they're complaining too much. Or, you know, I think it was the APC that was saying it was unpatriotic, you know, to protest at this time.
Yeah, and they said the protest was supported by the opposition parties.
Yeah, you know, that is mostly because, you know, they always refuse to take responsibility for ways that they failed. It would almost be impossible for the APC government, the current administration, to come out and say, okay, yes, we failed you in this regard. We could have done better with providing, you know, better economic policies. We could have done better with the agriculture, with security. We failed. But I mean, during the campaigns, I remember that the president was asked certain questions, and he, you know, delegated them out. Let's go to Niger State. I think we have someone from Niger State. Abubakar, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead.
I enjoy your program.
Thank you.
You'll be discussing much about this food and whatever. My contribution here is that people should understand, the people in government should understand that people are terribly annoyed with them. Like in Niger State, when we come to Niger State, we have couples who come from the south, from the far north to Niger State, who refuse to go back because the cheap food they used to have in Niger State. Some of the open shops here. But today, a man, the poor man can no longer eat 3 square meals in Niger State. And somebody is saying it's not political. It's political. It's not political. The government should put themselves, they should start on their toes and do the needful. And next, in Nigeria, generally, there's a problem. And in the grassroots, I know what is happening. All attempts to make operations in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, where is this? There are programs of these agro programs in the Federal Ministry. Today, it is being corrupted. Something does not get down to the farm. It's not from the presidency to a presidency will give approval to Federal Ministry of Agriculture. From the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, what is the Japanese to say? Nobody sees it. And they said us to keep quiet. People won't keep quiet. People are annoyed. So it's not deliberate that people are protesting. They are forced to protest.
Yeah.
And all right. You can use those 200 naira to get some 2 bags of yam before. Today it's not possible. 20,000 naira for 22 bags of yam.
Yeah.
They should allow people to ventilate their grievances.
Yeah.
People are annoyed.
Mohammed, thank you very much. Like we said, it's the same thing all over the country.
Same thing. I mean, that's Niger State. That's the middle.
Yeah.
Take a look at the the reactions are indeed not looking good, not suitable. And like many have said, it's high time for the president to indeed stand up. One of the measures he's taken is that he said food should actually be distributed nationwide, and he's called on the Ministry of Agriculture and the likes to quickly swing into action and ensure that food goes round. But then again, these issues persist, and Nigerians have said, okay, fine, maybe this is the right move, and maybe let's be patient. Let's see if the president's decision would actually work fine to the benefit of Nigerians. But then again, also recall that, I mean, the front page of the Punch as well, one story there says, the same president, that's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, plans 2,000 houses in 12 states by December. And I recall when this story also broke yesterday, Nigerians are saying, well, housing is also a problem. We have housing deficiency and the likes. But then again, you're providing houses with no food.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't tackle all of them at exactly the same time. And even if you're talking about housing projects, they take time, to develop. But one thing that, we should, point out is what I think is lacking here, because
so just hang on with it. Let's take Victor from Zamfara now. Victor joins us. Hello, Victor. Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Central. Hello, Victor. Can you hear us? Okay, unfortunately, I don't think Victor is ready to talk to us now. I think
we should move to another paper.
Let's go to another paper,
take more calls, so we don't abandon any of the newspapers. The Guardian newspaper comes up next, and it says here, how Super Eagles defied odds and doubts to qualify for 10 billion naira CAF prize. Government orders release of 102,000 metric tons of rice and maize. Labour intensifies pressure, gives the government 14 days to address hardship and hunger. Reps to tighten defamation laws amid Badabia Miller's 3 billion naira COVID-19 fund allegation. Okay. Deal with insecurity urgently. Go on. CSN tell Tinubu. And also Fashola wants constitution review to allow states determine minimum wage. Federal government deploys troops to tackle bandits and others in Ekiti. When women farmers deny receiving 15 trillion naira agric intervention.
There was an agric intervention that the president did talk about earlier on. And this news on page 7, it kind of like got me thinking. The women are now denying that they said they didn't receive anything. You see,
maybe some did. It probably didn't go as far as they.
Remember Empower. Remember all these programs that the government has put in place to ensure. I mean, I remember I did receive a call at some point during the COVID-19 period that they said, okay, are you going through a lot, this, and I was told, okay, we'll make some contributions to you so you could take care of your person, So personally, you know what I did? I filled in that form and I waited to see if anything would come. Nothing came. Yeah. Nothing.
Probably didn't know somebody. Let's go to Abuja. Emmanuel joining us from Abuja. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Emmanuel. Go ahead.
Good morning. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
My brother, you see, the problem in this country, especially APC, what is happening in other countries is 1/10 of what's happening in other countries. What is happening in Nigeria here, 1/10 of it happening in other countries and take over. The problem here, these are better people who kill Nigeria. See APC. See what are the most people expect. If you come to APC, you're going to be forgiven. Please, people surrounding him. So how can this country move forward? It will never move forward. Correct people surrounding him. See Bajabi Amela. See Ganduje. See Fabio. All these are leaders of APC, and they are people. They are to kill this country. People cannot arrest them, cannot talk to them. This country can never move forward. The army itself, I blame them because what is happening now, they're supposed to take over the country, no matter what. They're supposed to take over the country. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the fact. That's why we think that nothing will happen in this country. Mark what I tell you today.
Yeah. And I fully understand, your.
But we can still remain optimistic, though. I mean,
you cannot remain optimistic, but I think I would fully understand when a person has zero faith, in anything. And we spoke with, spokesperson of the Northern Elders Forum, and he said from what he has seen so far, we're not going anywhere. So, everyone who, pretty much has the same mentality with him will say the same thing, that you can say, okay, maybe let's give them time. But from what I've seen in the last 8 months and last 9 months, there's absolutely nothing to expect from it. And, my point would continually be rather, let the government at least be able to convince the Nigerian people that they have a plan, right? Saying, tighten your belts, the country is pregnant, will soon give birth. Those aren't plans. Those aren't convincing anybody. Those aren't telling anybody in Niger State.
The opposing party to share their plans.
all those things are not convincing to anybody that you have a plan, that you know what you are doing. Either the president himself is saying it, or either of the ministers. But somebody needs to be able to convince the Nigerian people in Niger State or in Delta or in Benue or in Edo State that we have a plan, and this is our plan. We understand how tough things are, but we're working on it, and these are our plans. Yes, there will be critics. Yes, the opposition party might think otherwise and say, okay, no, we don't agree with these plans. But at least say something, that how are we going to improve on Nigeria's agricultural produce in the next 1 year? If the government says to us now that we see where the challenge is with producing foodstuff, with improving on rice and millet and yams and potatoes and tomatoes and everything that the government is
importing these, by the way. That's the option.
So if we say, that's very sickening. If we say that we understand, and this is, I'm speaking this morning as layman as possible, I'm running a small kiosk down the junction. If we say that we understand that the challenge with improving on Nigeria's agricultural produce is insecurity. But this is our plan, and this is what we've done so far. We're going to be able to get more people into the farms. We're going to be able to allocate more farmlands, give out more millets, more grains to farmers, fertilizer, whatever, assist them. And this is where we are currently. But in the next 1 year, in the next 2 years, this is where we would be. Nigerians, just hold on for the next 1 year. That might, and once again, I'm speaking, in layman's terms, that might give somebody some hope. And, the same thing with regards petrol, gas prices, electricity situation in the country, security situation in the country. But let us know that this is the plan that we have. But once again, which way Nigeria? If we have a president that doesn't in any way come to the Nigerian people every week, every 2 days, every 2 weeks, give us once a month even, to say, okay, this is my plan, and he can properly break it down and say, okay, this is where we are, this is where we're going, then nobody sees that we're going anywhere. Everybody is really just going to see it as business as usual. You're going to run your 4 years, and then after 4 years, you come for re-election, and then you do 8 years if you get to win again. It's not in any way encouraging. These are the major stories on The Guardian this morning. I think we can squeeze in one more phone call before we wrap up, but Daily Independent still has a few stories that we can share with you. It says the NLC TUC issue 14-day strike ultimatum to the federal government. Our nation is at war. Let's close ranks, says Defense Headquarters. Also, at the top of your screen there, you can see NNPC Limited assures Nigerians. I think the page is cut off on the Daily Independent. So you can't read the first lines.
No increase in petrol prices. NNPC Limited assures Nigerians. Just a few days ago, we had panic buying. A lot of people were rushing to. I was part of that, though. I had to fill my tank up. No excuses, so I could get here every morning. But NNPC, I beg your pardon, says, please, there's no fuel scarcity, so do not be in a hurry. Reduce the need for you to go on long queues just to fill up your tanks. Nothing is happening. Let me also follow up with the next story. Tinubu orders release of 102,000 metric tons of rice, maize to crash prices, vows to go after hoarders of foodstuff. So then again, what I highlighted a few hours ago, a few minutes ago, that the hoarders, the middlemen, are equally the problem in doing this. So the government needs to take a stern decision and ensure that a lot is done. And that's what the president has said he's doing. They're going to go after hoarders as well. And that's why you saw the Niger State governor, Governor Bago, who came and said, you know what, enough. The trucks don't come in. And our guest also made that clear. Pensioners lament exclusion from minimum wage committee. That's another one. Go all out for drug barons, cartels, marijuana charges, NDLEA commanders. Tinubu says social media, a menace, must be regulated. Social media must be regulated. And I heard a voice that said, is that the problem?
It's definitely not.
Sunday,
good morning.
Good morning to you, Sunday from Lagos.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
Very well. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sunday. We can hear you. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I really enjoyed your topic this morning. And I'm looking at it from another angle, that Mr. President has a good intention, but the people who have to do the job, they are the ones making things a little bit difficult. Think of the food items they are planning to give. Before it gets to the layman, the minister want to give to his own family, this want to give to the social, and before you know it, just very little to get to the poor man there. So if they can establish a kind of a board that will monitor the prices of food items. We had it before, in some years back, that it is this price monitoring board. Whatever the food that the government is bringing out, there should be a monitoring board that will be going around to find out if actually they are selling this food, these commodities at the right price they are giving. So that if you sell above it, whatever they have in their store, they should remove it. With that, maybe some senses will come to our people. You will find that somebody who bought maybe has 10 bags of rice, and he has not recouped another one. You buy maybe a mudu of rice now, about 1,500. If you go there the following day, he or she will tell you it's not 2,000. And you know that what he or she has in the store is still in the store. So we are the ones that are actually killing ourselves. The government is trying, but the individuals that they want to make quick money is the major problem we have.
All right. Thank you very much. You know, even if I think CK and yesterday was saying, Chris Wanda was saying that it's not necessarily the best advice to ask government to regulate these prices. You know, the market has to regulate its own price. You know, the government should, you know, not be the one to be telling people what they will sell their goods and services. In the same way that they try to do it with petrol, and you know, see that we're currently not being able to have reasonable petrol prices, you know, for Nigerians. So I don't necessarily agree with that. I feel like if you have a conducive environment, the market forces will regulate the prices. They would be, you know, reasonably priced, and you know, people will be able to afford them. There's currently just a lot of poverty, and it's a struggle. But that's all the time that we have for the newspapers and for your calls this morning. I appreciate everyone who was a part of it from every part of the country. Thank you very much, from the north, the south, the east, and the west, the middle belt. Thank you for joining us. We'll be, of course, back here again with the newspapers on Monday morning. But let's take a short break. When we come back, we continue with Breakfast Central. And, of course, back to our top stories.
You watch Breakfast Central on News Central. As the world grapples with the hazardous effect of climate change, calls have been made for a general acceptance of the reality that the world is in urgent need of preservation. Now, this report, News Central's Bettina Nweli highlights the essence of the Sustainable Development Goal for clean energy. Take a look.
Even though Africa contributes only about 4% of the global carbon emissions, the continent is not insulated from the impact of the climate crisis and may suffer the worst form of devastation from the climate challenge. We are currently producing a staggering 20% more emissions than the environment can safely absorb. It was for this reason that at the Paris Climate Conference in 2015, most countries in the world agreed to keep the global average temperature below 2 degrees Celsius and achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050.
masu kudi su suke amfani da injinin a gidansu. Talaka wanda baya da kuya nawa zai ci yaushe zai je sai inji ya yi ja gida ga shefanin mai ga shoran gyara yau duka an kawo da su gaba daya an dogara ga wutan ne kawai yanzu wutan ne shi na ake amfani da shi shi yasa mutane sun soma jin dadin wutan yanzu kowa da kowa yanzu yana bukatan wuta ne kai gare shi domin yana gida duk abin zai da wuta ba sai wahalan zuwa wani guri ba.
There are 600 million Africans without access to electricity, and Nigeria is the largest, has the highest rates of this unelectrified population across Africa. Nigeria is also the largest potential market for mini-grids, and so mini-grids are a key solution in electrifying at least 30% of the unelectrified population. So Nigeria has the potential, but it is being hampered by a range of constraints, including financial and policy constraints at the moment.
Nigeria currently accounts for the 4th largest emissions in Africa after South Africa, Egypt, and Algeria. Nigeria's carbon emissions come from electricity generation, mining, oil exploration played out in gas flaring, manufacturing, transport, and marginally from households. The use of generators as an alternative source of power has made the situation even more dire. Spike in the cost of cooking gas is also forcing citizens back to firewood and charcoal as a source of household energy.
The most of it is the hike in petrol, but I won't say generator is better than using the electricity rather, because most times when you use generator, it doesn't give that power supply to the way electricity will supply to you.
It's the noise itself, and then the smoke that comes out. Yes, it's always choking.
I use generator, but I hate the noise. I don't like the noise at all, because when the noise starts, wow, you won't even enjoy the reason why you on it. I don't like the noise and the smell, the pollution. It has noise pollution and the bad smell that comes in. So I don't like it. I prefer staying in the dark than using the jet.
Finding a global solution to the rising threat to the climate propelled the focus on clean energy as the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal for the month of February. At the center of every realistic transformation is the effective deployment of renewable energy sources. In Lagos, Nigeria, moves are being made to switch to electric commercial buses in a bid to cut down on fossil fuels.
There is a lack of infrastructure. So you cannot build, for example, Uber for waste where there is no waste collection infrastructure. You cannot build or tell people to transition to electric vehicles where there are no charging stations or where there are not even reliable power to charge your vehicle. Whatever innovative electric vehicle there is a limit to the distance, the kilometer that you can go without being charged. And if we do not have infrastructures like charging stations, then that means that we can't have electric vehicles. Even when maybe entrepreneurs then innovate and install charging stations, if there is no reliable power, grid power, for example, it means that we then have to start even power charging stations with diesel, which again defeats the entire climate action purpose.
Electric cars require very little maintenance, And for people who are thinking electricity is not available, you can solve that problem by providing solar powered packs where the cars will be charged properly. You could also use IPPs to charge it, but this is really a perfect thing. It also helps drastically by reducing the amount of environmental pollutions that we have from ICE cars.
Seeking a remedy to the steady injury on the climate may demand a sincere appraisal of the sources of the threat and responsibilities assigned in direct proportion with damages caused. To address the challenge, Nigeria must immediately commit to urgent climate action that is backed by resolute ideas, political will, and citizen effort. There is also a need to invest in effective public transport system to reduce the number of cars on the road and, by implication, the number of emissions. Climate action has become a global emergency, and Nigeria cannot afford to be left behind.
I believe that with political will, Nigeria can meet those goals. And like we said earlier on, DCERA, which is decentralization, storage, efficiencies, recycling, repurposing, and artificial intelligence, is a solid concept for us to reach our goals when it comes to transition and renewable energy.
Nigeria must immediately work to harness, optimize, and integrate its renewable energy potential, as the abundance of hydro, sun, and wind provides incredible opportunities for energy transition and to meet its net zero targets. In Lagos, for News Central, Bettina Nwili.
And thanks to Bettina Nwili for that very detailed report. Now, the Nigerian President Bola Tinubu-led federal government has appealed to the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, and the Trade Union Congress, TUC, to see reasons and not embark on a nationwide strike. According to the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed, the president said it was not in the federal government's interest for Labour to continue embarking on strikes.
Well, recall that the organised labour yesterday issued a 14-day ultimatum to the federal government over the hardship confronting Nigerians, and that counting starts today. Well, their complaint stems from the failure of the government to implement the 16-point agreement between organised labour, which is the NLC and TUC, and the federal government on October the 2nd, 2023. The labour leaders expressed concern that despite the diligent efforts of organised labour to promote harmony in the workplace, the government appears unaffected by the widespread suffering and hardship in the country.
Now, reacting, the minister said the federal government will not renege on the promises made to the workers, adding that the Tinubu-led government will honor agreements with the unions. Now, of course, we are joined this morning by Onyeka Chris, who is the Assistant General Secretary to the Nigerian Labour Congress. Good morning, Mr. Onyeka Chris. All right. Good morning, Mr. Chris. Can you hear us?
Okay. Good morning. I can hear you now.
Thanks for joining us. First of all,
thank you so much.
Yes. First of all, give us, just a very, very quick summary of the last agreement that you had with the Tinubu administration and how the government has failed to live up to those promises, which of course may have necessitated, your call for a strike.
The October 2 agreement of 2023 was a 16-point agreement. It was an agreement that took almost like 8 hours to reach. And most of the issues that were highlighted there were labor issues and issues that have to that impact the lives of the average Nigerian. And we had felt that each issues were given the proper attention that they deserved and implemented, that it would have ameliorated the crisis of living that Nigerians are going through today, that all of us are faced with. And so, we felt that the refusal of the federal government to implement most of them, and the ones that they wanted to implement, they implemented them to the breach without implementing them according to agreement. We then felt that it's important that we take steps to ensure
when you say
that we compel the government to do all of those.
Yeah, when you say they implemented some and didn't, and abandoned the rest, give us an example of one or two that were fully implemented, or partially implemented, or not implemented at all.
None was fully implemented. It's all the ones that they wanted to implement, they implemented to the breach.
Which ones now? Can you give us an example?
Now you can, for example, we talked of the National Minimum Wage Committee that was supposed to be set up. We agreed that that committee was going to be inaugurated in November. It was not inaugurated until about 1 week, 2 weeks ago. In February. That was wrong. And then the wage award of 35,000 naira. They have many people received only 1 month since last year. They received only 1 month and they have not received anything, while others have barely received only 2 months. And we are in February. And so those are some of the things. The CNG, the issue of the compressed natural gas, the buses that were supposed to help Nigerians to transition and reduce the cost of transportation in Nigeria. The federal government did not implement it. They took it over and distorted the implementation strategy that was supposed to be an inclusive thing, that was supposed to bring buses, mass transportation, to alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians and help reduce the cost of transporting food from one point to from point A to point B. And that is why Nigerians are faced with this huge burden of living on a daily basis. And so those were some of the things that informed our decision to the decision of the leadership to engage the government, to compel the government to ensure that these things are met. Issues of mass housing, issues around mass transportation, issues around the petrol, the Port Harcourt, the domestic refinery, especially the Port Harcourt refinery. We agreed that we were going to work together. That a team was going to be set up to monitor to ensure that the refinery comes on stream in December as agreed. They did not set up the committee. Nothing happened. They just went ahead. At the end of the day, we saw what happened in December.
All right, Mr. Yeka, are you there?
Fled gas. They fled gas to deceive Nigerians, and that was wrong. And so, in all of this, government has not shown enough integrity, enough faithfulness in dealing with Nigerian workers and Nigerian people. Okay, Mr. Yeka. Unacceptable.
Mr. Yeka, I mean, we're running short and out of time, but let me quickly ask this. Is this impending strike, what makes this impending strike different from the previous ones? Because Nigerians have seemed to, they have lost hope in the NLC and TUC. Remember what happened a few months ago? We're going on strike, Nigerians are already galvanized, and then all of a sudden it will stop. What makes this one different? And then my last, if it's a two-part question, I just need you to answer very quickly for us. What makes this strike, this impending strike, different? And then where is Joe Ajaero? Those two questions.
The last one I will answer immediately. The President of Congress of NLC, Comrade Joe Ajaero, is alive and kicking. He is in the country attending to workers-related issues. He just came back from a conference where the issues, bordering on Nigerian workers and Nigerian people were canvassed effectively by him. That is the first question. That is the last question. The second one is that we have not declared a strike. I want Nigerians to understand. What we have said is very simple. That we have given government 14 days notice to implement all the agreements that we reached with it. We have not said we are going to embark on strike so day. We have said we are giving you 14 days notice to be able to do all of those. If after 14 days they refuse to do all of those, we will sit down as trade unionists and decide on the next course of action. So I think that there is need for journalists to also help us to make this clarity so that people will understand it very well. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. So it's clear now. They're giving the government 14 days. If nothing happens after 14 days, you will sit with the government again. Okay? That's the clarity there.
We will sit amongst ourselves.
Oh, amongst yourself, not with the government.
Amongst ourselves, not with the government. We will sit within the trade unions and decide on the next line of action.
Okay. All right. Unfortunately, we're out of time. But if you can quickly, respond to this. We got a few calls earlier in the show, and there's a lot of Nigerians who do not have any faith in the NLC or in the TUC to fight for them. They've repeatedly said that the NLC has, the same routine. Threaten, protest, threaten strike action, give ultimatums, and then call off, a couple of hours before, their threats are meant to kick off. So what would you say to those people?
People who are working for the government, who are gaslighting us, who are trying to, kind of confuse or make Nigerians lose sight of what we are doing. The fact is that we have ways of operating. If we have issued strike notice to the government, and government has, to a large extent, says, okay, we are going to do this. How can we say, okay, let us hold you like this agreement? And government has said, okay, we are going to do this. And we say, okay, let's give them benefit of the doubt. Because many Nigerians have also said, this is a new government. Why not allow this government some time? Some of them have accused us that we are working for Labour Party. Some have also accused us of some primordial sentiments. And so we have taken into consideration these nuances in every decision that we are taking. And I want to assure you that we have new Labour leaders on the block. And they are committed to fighting for Nigerian workers and Nigerian people. And so whatever we are doing is altruistic. Thank you so much.
We need to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining us. We would, of course, follow and see how this turns out with the NLC and the federal government. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you for having me.
All right. It's time for us to say goodbye on a Friday morning. Thank you very much for being with us all through the week. It's been very interesting. And, of course, those who join us via phone lines, we appreciate also. Remember to be part of the conversations and, of course, follow later programs here on New Central TV. And, of course, the YouTube page is always active. Have a great weekend and see you on Monday. I am Osarogie Ogbawa.
And I am Joe Hansen. Take care.